Does anyone else get seasonal depression? I sure do. The cold winters, current world affairs, gray skies, it all gets to me. I had so much family drama, anything sounded better than moping in my apartment. That's why I jumped at the opportunity to go fishing with some friends of mine this past weekend. My pal has an uncle with a large amount of land, a cabin, and a sweet pond. Jared, Lincoln, and I loaded up my pickup with necessary equipment. Some fishing rods, a tackle box, some bait, food, firewood, and beer. We hit the road speeding, ready to hook some lips and get away from the world for a disconnected weekend. It took about an hour and a half to get to Jared's uncle's pond. We did some truck karaoke and ate some fast food on the way. We finally hit the grassy hill his uncle owned with a few hours of daylight left. His uncle was standing out by the gate and waved us out. Jared got out and gave him a tight hug. Jared, hey uncle. Jared got out and gave him a tight hug. Jared, hey boys, this ugly devil here is my Uncle Rusty. Rusty, this is my buddies, Lincoln and Henry. We walked over and shook Rusty's hand. Henry, thanks for letting us use your land this weekend, sir. I promise we will do everything to respect it and leave no traces. Rusty, Henry, is it? I nodded as he spit a mouthful of tobacco out. Rusty, Henry, I like you. That sounds good to me. You're all right. Boys, there is a couple rules here, and they all really are common sense. Don't be messing with cattle. They will leave you alone if you leave them alone. Keep the fire in the fire pit. Don't be keeping the fish. I have this pond for family and friends like yourselves to come enjoy, and I don't have the money to be stocking it up every other week. And, most importantly, pick up the trash you create. I believe that God blessed me with a beautiful piece of land here, and I intend on being a good steward of it. I can already tell you boys will be as well. Well, boys, I gotta lock the gate once you go in. I'm gonna give Jared a key though in case of emergencies and y'all need to leave. I just don't want the gate to open up and my cattle come out. You fellas have a good weekend and catch some big ins. After he finished that sentence, we pulled in the gate and he locked it, giving Jared the key. Jared, just pop that key in my mailbox once y'all head out. Tell your mom I wish her the best. We watched as Rusty went down the road and out of sight. We decided to go on and get our poles in the water. Driving to the pond was one of the most beautiful views I ever seen. He had some Bradford pears in bloom and the dogwoods were fixing to themselves. We drove and had his longhorn steers walking around our truck and checking us out. They looked pretty intimidating, but we realized they're just normal cattle with some long-ass horns. If they were gentle as other cattle, Rusty should be right. When we pulled up to the pond, we all hopped out and grabbed our gear, set out a couple lawn chairs and cracked a beer. Gentlemen, this is paradise. And we all toasted. I set up a couple rod stands and hooked up 2 poles. One was for carp. I threw it out with some soy bait and put it on my rod stand that had a bell to let me know if there was any movement. My other pole was rigged normal. A sinker, bobber, hook, and worm, hoping to catch whatever was in there. It was unusually warm that evening, which I'm not complaining. We listened to the sounds of the bullfrogs and watched a handsome water snake slither off into the woods. We had a great evening. I'm talking about we really hooked some lips. I got probably 6 largemouth bass, 10 brims, and a catfish. Lincoln caught about 15 brim, and Jared couldn't even set his rod down because as soon as his hook hit that water, he had a bite. None of us had ever been so lucky. The sun was starting to set, so we began to put the gear in the bed of the truck. All of a sudden, I heard my bell. I saw my rod moving and I ran to pull in a carp. The rod flew off the stand and I was so lucky to grab it before I lost it. The pull from this beast was intense. I thought I'd never reel it in. In fact, I didn't. My rod snapped from the pure force this fish had. That was a damn $500 rod and reel setup and it was destroyed. Lincoln, forget about Henry. Don't let it get to you too bad. Let's go make some dinner, Lincoln said as he patted my shoulder and climbed in the truck. I climbed in the bed of the truck and we drove the 300 yards to the cabin. When we got out, we unloaded all but the fishing gear and built a fire. On the fire, we cooked up onions and potatoes on a cast iron. We roasted some weenies and marshmallows. We had a few beers and mimicked the coyotes we heard in the distance. The other boys went to bed, but I stayed out by the fire, poking and prodding it, having a cigarette. I really needed this, I thought. This trip has been amazing, and even though I lost my favorite rod, I'd rather be here than at home. I was sick of listening about my sister's divorce and my parents feeding into the drama. I put on just a little music and read some of the book I brought. After a few chapters and a few more beers, I must have passed out. I woke up and the fire had nearly went out. It was still smoking, but the morning dew had moistened the nearly exhausted wood. I got up out of the chair I fell asleep in and took a leak. I figured I better get the fire back going to make a pot of coffee and breakfast for my buddies and I, but then I heard something. Singing. I should have woke the boys up, but I didn't. I went to go investigate. Through the wet dew and the fog rising over the pond water, I saw someone in the water. I got closer and saw who it was. A woman sitting by the edge of the pond, brushing her hair and singing. She sounded like an angel. She was soaking wet. "Henry, excuse me, ma'am, can I help you?" She stood and turned to look at me, and how I wish she wouldn't have. She was slightly shorter than I and had long brown hair that fell to the middle of her back. Her eyes were also brown, and her smile, oh God, her smile was beautiful. She was wearing a translucent white robe, and through it I could see her perfectly rounded breasts. Embarrassed, I turned my head so she wouldn't catch me staring at her body. "Woman, don't be bashful, sugar. This is my uncle's land. He didn't tell you I'd be here?" "Henry, no," I replied. "I'm sorry to have interrupted you. I'm gonna go back to my friends." "Woman, wait," she said as she slipped the robe off her body. She walked up to me and I was intoxicated. She leaned in and kissed me. Her lips tasted like honey and her tight body pressed up against me. She bit her lip and giggled as she pushed me down on the ground and climbed on me. I trembled as she removed my clothing and mounted me. Without getting into details, we made absolute passionate love. She rolled off of me and cuddled up to me. As the sun was coming up and the fog dissipated, I began to rub her face, and I noticed the cutest scar below her lip. "Woman, darling, would you close your eyes? I have a surprise," her angelic voice spoke. She reached in her robe pocket that lay on the ground and was caked in pond mud. I closed my eyes and felt her rubbing my lips and face. Her silky skin began to send pure ecstasy waves through my body. As I nibbled on her fingers, I felt something sharp. "Henry?" "Ouch, what the fuck?" Instantly, I felt something sharp rip through my mouth and she was standing above me. She began to drag the metal piece in my mouth and pull me into the pond. The beautiful face I adorned had now turned into an ugly face, and her eyes were separating as she looked back at me. Her mouth started popping open and close quickly. I reached to grab her arm and noticed her perfect skin felt scaly and slippery. I couldn't get a grip on her arms, she was so slick. I tried to dig my boots in the ground to have some resistance, but it proved useless as this beast was much stronger than I. My clothes began to dampen as I went in the water. Screaming before I went under, I tried to yell for my friends. As I was screaming, she pulled the hook under and my head submerged in the water and I swallowed a tremendous amount of algae-filled water. I tried to resist but felt my mouth ripping and could see the blood mixing in with the muddy water that I had stirred up. My legs got tangled in old fishing line and weeds. I don't remember passing out. I just remember waking up in the back of the truck, speeding down the road. I coughed up some water and I heard Jared yelling, "Jared! Lincoln, he's up! Hold up, buddy, we're almost at the hospital." I closed my eyes again and woke up in an ER bed. Jared and Lincoln had sat by my side. I looked around trying to gather my bearings and I heard Jared speak to me. "Jared, hey buddy, you gave us a scare there." "Henry, what? What happened?" "Jared, we heard you screaming. Took off thinking you were fighting a longhorn or something and saw you flailing about in the water. What happened, man? Did you fall in?" "Henry, you mean you didn't see her?" I asked. "No, dude, it was just you in the water." "What are you talking about? By the time we pulled you out, blood was pouring from your mouth and you was passed out. We figured you were just drunk and about killed yourself. Poor Lincoln did CPR on you." "Lincoln? I ain't ever giving you mouth to mouth again. You tasted like fish and blood. Next time you're on your own. And now I gotta explain to my girl how I kissed a man. Dumbfounded, and knowing they wouldn't believe me, I told them I must have fell in while taking a walk. The nurse came in and rubbed my head. Nurse, hey sweetie, you're good to go. Just take some of the antibiotics we called into the pharmacy. You swallowed a lot of nasty water. Rub some hydrogen peroxide on that cut and rub some ointment on it. She dropped a Ziploc bag on my chest containing a metal piece. Nurse, I reckon you'll want to keep that. Most fishers like to keep these things. It was a hook.